This is an experience we all go through, and it's a process of realization. The realization that we may be trying to explain ourselves all the time, but the other person only understands a version of us that's filtered through their own life experiences. This isn't a rare phenomenon. It's something inherent in the human experience. Everyone, including ourselves, wears a lens of personal interpretation, shaped by everything we've been through, everything we've learned, and even by our cultural and social context. What you say is always filtered through what the other person thinks, what they've been through, and their own deeply rooted beliefs. This is the way the human mind works, but it doesn't mean we can never fully understand each other. This realization can be painful because we often long for complete, unconditional recognition. We want to be seen in our purest form, without anyone misinterpreting us. We seek validation, whether that comes from friends, family, or even strangers. We want people to understand us, not just our words, but also our inner being, our intentions, our deep feelings that are sometimes difficult to express in words. We think that if we explain ourselves enough, if we repeat what we feel often enough, others will understand us. But this is often an illusion. The truth is, no matter how hard we try, we will never be fully understood by another person. Not because we're not authentic, not because we're not trying enough, but because the other person is always looking through their own lens. A lens shaped by their own reality, their own filters of understanding. This is one of the fundamental boundaries of human communication and interaction. It's not something we can overcome by using more words or giving better explanations. It's simply a limitation of the human experience. So what happens when we acknowledge this? Often we feel frustrated. We might even feel invisible, as if no one truly sees who we are. But here's the crucial point. This is not a reason to lose ourselves in frustration or sadness. When you accept that people will never fully understand you, this can actually be liberating. Instead of trying to meet others' expectations of who you should be, you can start living from your own truth. This is where true growth and freedom lie, letting go of the need to be understood by others and beginning to understand yourself without constant approval from the outside world. It's important to understand that most people, however well-intentioned, often think they know you, that they understand who you are. But what they actually understand is a reflection of themselves, of what they think you are, based on their own life experiences. This is the essence of human communication. We can never truly enter another's consciousness. Our communication, no matter how open and honest we try to be, will always be translated through the other person's filters. This is not a failure of the other person, nor a shortcoming of ourselves. It's simply the way the human mind works. We can only begin to grow when we recognize and understand these boundaries. This is not a reason to distance ourselves from others, but rather an invitation to have more compassion for them and for ourselves. When we understand that no one can fully understand us, we can also learn not to hold it against them that they don't understand us, but instead see them as people who, just like us, are walking their own path, colored by their personal experiences. And instead of constantly seeking approval from others, we can start recognizing our own truth, rather than always trying to explain it. We can create a space where we can be fully ourselves, without the pressure of being understood by others, but first and foremost, to understand who we truly are. Because only when we do that, can we truly begin to share ourselves in a way that is authentic, without expectations from others. Take a look at a tree, for example. We often say, "I've seen this tree grow." But is that really true? Did you see the tree grow in every stage, every day? No, of course not. What you see is the result of a long period of growth, but you weren't there to observe the process of every inch, every change. To truly see a tree grow, you would have to stand next to it 24/7, capturing every second. But even then, what would it matter to you? It's the growth of the tree, a process that doesn't directly impact your life. You see it getting bigger, but you haven't personally experienced its transformation. This is exactly how it works with people in their personal growth. You can't follow someone else's path. You can't fully observe the inner changes they're going through. Another person's growth has nothing to say to you. It's their process, just as the tree has its own growth process. What you see is just the exterior, the result of inner change, but the true depth, the real transformation, often remains hidden from the outside world. It's not your path. It's none of your business, just as the tree goes through its development without you needing to be constantly present. When we bring this idea to our own lives, we see the same principle at work. It's a trap we often fall into, the idea that we need to understand the growth of others, or that we must justify what we feel or think. People often try to interpret our choices, our ideas, our way of doing things through their own lens of experience and understanding. This can be frustrating, especially when you feel misunderstood, or when people don't see you for who you truly are. You might not always be able to explain why you make certain choices or why you feel a certain way, and that's okay. It's not always your job to justify what's obvious to you. Most people can only understand what lies within their own reach, what seems familiar from their own life experiences. This is why some people might not understand you, or even ignore what you're trying to show. This doesn't have to be a rejection of you. It's simply a reflection of their own limited perspective. Just like you couldn't see the tree in every stage of its growth, others can't experience the full depth of your journey. Their perspective is filtered through their own reality, and that's something you don't always have control over. This process can be especially challenging for highly sensitive people because they often feel and understand more than others. They have a sharper intuition, a deeper insight, but are often misunderstood because others simply can't see the same depth. You don't need to become frustrated when you're not understood, because it's not always about you. It's about the level of understanding the other person has, their own interpretation, preventing them from fully seeing what's really going on within you. Just like the tree grows at its own pace and in its own way, the other person grows at their own time and in their own way. We can learn to accept these differences, to not always expect others to fully understand us. Their path and our path are different, and that's a natural and inevitable reality. This realization can be liberating, as it allows us to let go. You don't need to convince everyone of your truth. You don't always need to provide your explanation. You can simply be, grow in your own way without worrying if anyone else understands that. The tree's growth has nothing to say to you, and the same goes for the growth of others in their lives. This is their process, their path, just as you follow your own path. What you feel, what you think, is always filtered through everything you've been through. Imagine you're sitting in a boat in the middle of a lake. You look at the water, see the horizon, the mountains in the distance, the wide view. But what you see is not exactly the same as what someone else in another boat would see. You have your own perspective,